It is a venue the Ghana Football Association never wanted the Black Stars to travel to for their penultimate World Cup qualifier against Ethiopia. They wrote a hard-hitting letter to FIFA questioning the fair play that is in their regulations for member associations because Ethiopia had decided that the Black Stars game against the Warriors would happen in South Africa. Well, the senior national team have arrived there with FIFA assuring the Ghana Football Association that they are going to have fair play. Head coach of the senior national team, Milovan Rajvac, says that every player that is selected to play for the national team have got a role to play. We'll also be talking a bit of NBA, where Milwaukee Bucks came up against Philadelphia 76ers and defeated them 118-109. I am Muftau Nabila Ablai, and this is AM Sports. Let's start with the Black Stars, where head coach Milovan Rajvac says that players selected have various roles to play in the team as they seek to return to the country's top global competitions, the World Cup. He is optimistic he has a team willing to compete.
Što je individualno i svako kad dođe u dobru formu treba što duže da je održi i da jedno tako se nametne da bi ga pozvao za ekipu i da bi igrao u ekipi.
Every position in the team has some requirements, and what is important for me from the player to meet my requirements according to the position in the team. Of course, I want to have a competition in my team, to have at least two players to fight for each position in the team. Also, form is important. So when player is in a good form, this is something that usually recommends him to receive the call up. So there are many important things, and but as I said, for every position there are some requirements, and that something that I expect if I notice that the player can deliver and the player can contribute to the team and play according to my expectation, this is a good recommendation for the player, and this player will be invited.
Meanwhile, the senior national team has arrived in South Africa for a penultimate game of the Qatar 2022 qualifiers against the Warriors. 24 players left Accra yesterday. Let's still stay on the Ghana Football Association, who questioned the decision of Ethiopia to move the match to South Africa, the home of a country competing for the sole ticket alongside the Black Stars to the final phase of the qualifiers. A hard-worded letter was sent to FIFA, but they have been assured of fair play, according to Communications Director Henry Asante-Chum. He was speaking to my colleague, George Adejunior.
It's the fact that they are playing Ghana and it's not in Ethiopia and it's in South Africa. I know, some people within the Ethiopian Federation are not even happy about the fact that the game has been moved outside Ethiopia. But it is because their stadium is not of good standard. Yeah. It's because when the match commissioner who handled the game against Zimbabwe, in his report, he wrote back to CAF and FIFA that the stadium is not of good quality. Again, when South Africa traveled there, the match commissioner, who is different this time, wrote the same report. So CAF was left with no option, than to close the venue. And unfortunately, it's got into our turn. Yeah. Ethiopia wrote to Kenya. We were notified. They wrote to Egypt. We were notified. They wrote to South Africa. Now, eventually, they decided that when they play Ghana, their next game is against Zimbabwe. Yeah. So they want a place that is quite or relatively closer to Zimbabwe, where they wouldn't travel for 8 hours from their home game to another away game. Okay. So they settled on South Africa. Immediately when it came up, we wrote a petition to FIFA. And in that petition, we appealed to FIFA to respect the fair play rule. FIFA came back to us, assuring us that there is no cause for alarm. They will make sure the right things are done. They will appoint the right officials. And as we speak, they've even appointed a security officer in charge of this game. I haven't seen any security officer for the other games, but as far as this game is concerned, there is a security officer for this game. There have been correspondence between us and FIFA. The assurances are, quite enormous. Yeah. That we should just go there with a clear conscience. The stadium is of higher standard, is world-class stadium. There will not be favoritism anywhere. The officials will be spoken to. We shouldn't also be intimidated by the fact that we are playing in our enemy's territory. Yeah. So
now let's talk about the new pyramid of Ghana football that we mentioned yesterday. Bono Ahafo Regional Football Association Chairman Rev Jamra says that With the new structure for Ghana football, the number of Congress is going to drop, and that, they say, is going to hand the elections to the highest bidder.
Being made, the new structure of Ghana football, I have sat in an executive council meeting where discussions have been made as to, so you see, let's look at two things here. You can talk about voting rights at Congress and also the number of delegates. So if, for instance, you give, say, 5 delegates or 5 slots to each region to be represented at Congress, it doesn't mean all the 5 should be made to vote as well. Maybe 1 out of the 5 can vote. So again, the issue about the numbers at Congress needs to be looked at from an angle of representative or representation at Congress being different from those with voting rights, so that you can have big numbers at Congress, but it doesn't mean that everybody at Congress is going to vote on a motion or something that is placed before Congress. So those are things that we need to look at. But like you rightly said, the structure of football is going to change 2022-2023 season. So that structure, again, I'm sure in the wisdom of the Executive Council, they may want to come up with a few amendments as to how we're going to constitute Congress going forward. So we look forward to that, and I'm sure when the matter is put out there, and then we have a look at it, we can then make an informed decision as to what is the best way forward for Ghana football.
Let's talk about Medeama SC. They have not had a good start to the Ghana Premier League after losing their first game and drawing their second game at home against Bibiani Gold Stars. However, board chairman of the club, Dr. Tony Auburn, says that the club loves to give young coaches opportunities.
I like young people leading. Sometimes I say that they say the future is for young people. But the future is today. The future is not next year. The future is today for young people. Because once you move from now to the future, you're no longer a young person. I personally used to be a young man, and anywhere I worked, people used to tease me. Sometimes I couldn't even mention my age, because they would say, you small boy, you are here, you are just doing... I remember when I was in the cooperative bank, it was like I had to hide my age because they thought I was too young to be where I was. But now I'm no longer young, and then you know what it is. So I think the future of young people is now. So being given the opportunity, if you look at Haas coach, for example, he's a young guy. He's a young guy and he's doing brilliant work. He's got a history of performance. Right from when he came to us at Medeama and now what he's been doing with House of Oak. So if you don't give them the chance, and you see the young ones, they haven't had their lives tested, and they are very daring. They want to break the rules. Break the rules in court to achieve. So I would encourage young people being given the opportunity. I've said elsewhere that if I had my way, every board, a board of a company, a board of an organization must have someone who is about 29, at least one person, 29 to 35 there. Because, they have a tendency of thinking afar, and we shouldn't bully them on the board. Sometimes I've been on university councils, sometimes you see the SRC rep there being quiet because they are professors and all that. Or they are afraid that if they don't talk well, you meet them in the exams. but I think we should encourage them to think freely, because once you're growing, you become a bit too careful. You become a bit worried about things. But the young one may bring some crazy ideas, and the world changes with crazy ideas, not the same ideas.
So Ignatius Osei-Fosu is expected to bring in some crazy ideas that will ensure Medeama finally wins the Ghana Premier League this season. On this note, we say thanks very much for your company. I am Muftau Nabila Ablai.